we have yet another batch of nerfs, but we also have the latest stats after them, so we can stay up to date with the latest best Hearthstone decks right now. In this video, I will show you 5 of the best Hearthstone decks, their mulligans, win rates, as well as some general tips for them. But we will also check out all of the other working archetypes for each individual class, so stick around to the end. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Now, let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list is gonna be pure Dude Paladin, which has remained untouched throughout all of these nerfs, and is still a pretty amazing deck. It's still pure Pally, so it's not exactly rocket science, but you are having a Dude package in here, including Warhorse, Muster for Battle, Buffet Biggin, and also the Crusader aura fits perfectly here. We're not running the weapons in this variant, so you're a lot more board-centric, and you still have the Countess for some crazy RNG goodness. Anachronos can help you in sticky situations, Leviathan is also pretty nice because it is basically removal, as well as card draw, and the Amitis Peacekeeper is absolutely amazing in this one. And you can use her for draw, but you can also use her to buff your dudes. And don't forget the passive is absolutely insane, and it basically protects your minions from most damage-oriented board clears. Matchup-wise, here's what the stats show right now, and Relic DH is something you're not gonna be. And Relic DH is somewhat of a problem for you, but those are not exactly popular right now. And also Control Warlock is on the 50-50, and Defile is definitely something you need to worry about there. Against Control Warriors, all you gotta do is not overextend, and you should be fine. For the mulligans, here's what it looks like going first, and Buffet Biggin is always gonna be insanely good, but make sure to at least have a 1-drop, or something to play before him, so you can actually load him up till turn 4. Your best 1-drop is your Sanguine Soldier, apparently the Jukebox Totem is pretty awesome to keep, Muster for Battle is also amazing, as well as Boogie Down, and your second best 1-drop is Sinful Sous Chef. If you already have a good curve going, Crusader Aura might also make the cut, and if you already have Sanguine Soldier, you might even consider keeping Hand of Adol. Righteous Protector is your worst 1-drop to keep, but if you don't have any other 1-drops, I would say it's not a bad idea. Curator is still okay if you're curving into it, and depending on the matchup, Class Action or Blood Matriarch Reagent might also make some sense. As for what on the coin, it's pretty much the same on the top spots, but also Warhorse becomes a lot more keepable, especially if you already have Muster for Battle. And in some situations and certain matchups, I would even consider keeping the Countess as well. For other good Paladin decks, we have different iterations of Pure Pally, but there's also the non-Pure Pally, which is still running the Crusader aura, and has a bunch of sticky minions with the help of your Hawkstrider Rancher, and this one even is running Snowflipper Penguin, which is kinda cool. We also have Mech Paladin being above 50, but not by much, so yeah, Urban Paladin is also still pretty awful. But all around, Pure Pally is the way to go right now. On the number 2 spot, we still have Arcane Hunter with a massive sample size and still close to 59% win rate for the last 3 days, which is pretty good. Literally nothing changes for the deck, but the nerf definitely does make it a bit more clunky, because you're no longer gonna be able to do a easy turn 3 Holderon into a turn 4 Eversong Portal. But other than that, the card is still crazy good, and I don't see it leaving the deck anytime soon. Everything else is the same for the deck. You have your big weapons which you can discount heavily, Ancient Kraken Bane goes face nicely, the Titan Force Trap does crazy good things, and you have the small Arcane package as well as Star Power, and the Titan is also amazing. As for the matchups, here's what it looks like right now, and Totem Shaman and Enraged Warrior would be your only somewhat negative matchups, but not by much. Control Warlock is supposed to be a problem for you, even though it doesn't represent it here in the stats. And Arcane Hunter is still healing a bit too much for your liking, but all around, everything should be good for you. For the Mulligan going first, here's what the stats show, and you still want your good Costume Singer, Holderon, a little bit iffy here, but maybe the stats are still not absolutely updated. Awakened Tremors is great, the Titan, if you already have a good curve maybe, but if you don't I wouldn't. Trinket Tracker is not bad if you don't have another 1-drop, Titan Force Trap is nice, and if you already have your Eversong Portal, you could consider keeping the Silver Moon Force Rider as well. If you don't have your Costume Singer for turn 1, Hidden Meaning might also make the keep. And when going second, here's what the stats show, and it's basically the same thing, so yeah, mulligan accordingly. For other good Hunter decks right now, Hound Hunter is still actually doing quite well, even though it's with a lot less sample size. Here's the deck I showed you with the massive sample size, and yeah, a bunch of iterations of those two decks, so those will be the way to go for Hunter right now. On the number 3 spot, we have quite the skill testing deck, so I'm not sure if I should even advise this for you, but this is one of the best decks for top 1000 Legend right now, and most of the people on top Legend are actually playing this. Naga Mage is an extremely hard deck, and you are gonna have to play very differently depending on the matchup, and you can either swarm the opponent with a bunch of Nagas as soon as turn 4 or 5, or you can OTK them with the help of Sif, which you can even copy with Zola, and you can also even copy it with Reverberations, but this one is not running it, so you're gonna have to discover it through something like your school teacher, which is also giving you 1 mana Naga Links, which is basically free mana for you. I've tried the deck and it's definitely very skill testing, and on the turns where you play your Sirens, you're gonna have to make some pretty impressive APM to actually make it work, and you have to be careful to sequence the play correctly. Don't get baited by thinking Sir Finley's a Naga, he's just a Murloc, so he's not giving you anything with the Siren. And yeah, depending on the matchup, you might want to just tempo a huge turn with the Spitelash Siren, and if you're trying to set something up like that, you don't even want to be playing your Vicious Slither Spears on turn 1, but you'd rather hold on to them, so you can actually start gaining mana like that. Matchup wise, here's what the stats show, and this is literally all over the place, but in top 1000 Legend, this is one of the best performing decks, and the stats actually show it, so people actually started learning how to play this deck now. As for the Mulligan, here's what it looks like going first, and I'm really not sure why Finley is this high on the keep list, but this is what the stats show, and here's what the situation is looking like going second. For other good mage decks right now, Rainbow Mage is also doing quite amazingly in top 1000 Legends, but like I said, the Naga Mage is just a bit better with a bit bigger sample size as well. From Diamond through Legend though, as you can see, people don't really know how to play the deck as well, so we don't actually have a positive win rate Naga Mage this low. On the number 4 spot, we have Control Warrior doing quite well still, and right now this is one of the best performing variants out there. The buffs to the Control Warrior package definitely are helping a ton, and Bladestorm can clear some insane boards if the opponent is not careful, the Stone Skin Armorer draws you a ton of cards, the new Bellowing Flame is also super good, and it is your Forge card so you can actually get some Ignis action, and what you're looking from Ignis most of the time would be Wind Fury, so you can just kill the opponent nice and quick after Odin comes into play. We're also running the good Rift package, Trial by Fire is an extremely versatile spell, and it also represents tempo, and Prison of Yogg, like it or not, is becoming quite the meta card, and it's getting included in so many decks it's not even funny. We're also running From the Depths in this one, so Sir Finley can give you some absolute massive tempo like that if you go From the Depths, discount the bottom of your deck, and then draw it out with Finley and get some cheap stuff. Let's say a turn 6 Odin can be super powerful. As for the matchups, Hearthstone Hunter is not your friend, same goes for Control Priest, but the rest looks pretty good. Aside from Drum Druid, which if you don't get your brawls on time, or if the Druid is not careful and gives you a good Bladestorm board, you will be having some issues 50% of the time. Mulligan-wise going first, here's what the stats show. Let's drop it down from Diamond to Legend so it's a bit more populated. This is not something you should really be keeping, as you can see it's 0.4, so not really. Verse Riff is also something you shouldn't really keep too much, even though it could help you get some turn-free card draw with your 2-mana dudes, but you honestly would like to be using this after you have a Bridge Riff to repeat, or heck, even your Chorus Riff, because you don't have that many minions in the deck, so this way you almost guarantee getting Odin on time. Bridge Riff is amazing, the weapon's also pretty good, Chorus Riff I guess, depending on the matchup maybe, Bellowing Flames though is pretty good against aggressive matchups. From the Depths is always going to be nice, and again, depending on the matchup, if you're against the Rogue, for instance, Bladestorm can be insanely good because you can snipe off something even through stealth. Bash can help depending on the matchup, and again, if you expect very wide boards, let's say Drum Druid, Brawl can also be a keep. I really don't think Stone Skin should be this low on the keep list, but that's what the stats show. And for when on the coin, we can see most of the same cards, but even things like Heavy Plate are pretty high here, even though that doesn't really make too much sense and not many people are actually keeping it. Trial by Fire is a little bit low on the keep as well, even though it might help you out if you're curving into it, but the rest is kind of the same. For other good warrior decks right now, we also have the 40 variants doing quite well, but in top 1000 Legend, it is the control variants with 30 cards that are really doing well. And right now for Warrior, only Control Warrior is the way to go, and you can't even find Enrage Warrior anymore. And on the number 5 spot, we have Control Warlock, which has been doing quite well, and it has quite the big sample size too. This one is not running the Curse package, nor the Thaddeus package, but instead it runs things like Gigafin, Prison of Yogg, you still have your Loken Jailer, the Symphony is obviously a no-brainer, Ignis is also in here, as well as Akani, And you have your 2 Forge of Wills, with which you can absolutely demolish the early game, as long as you get your early game imprisoning Anubisat. You have tons of control with Defile, Drain Soul, the Torn Veil is also pretty helpful, Mortal Eradication can also be insanely good, Reverberations, you can steal something and also ping it down afterwards. And you still obviously have the Titan, which is an amazing card on its own. And you can tempo it out as soon as turn 5 if you have the coin for Symphony. For the matchups, here's what the stats show right now, and the meme Moonbrood is one of your worst matchups for some reason. But I guess they can literally just OTK you as soon as turn 6 or 7 if the cards land correctly for him, and there's not much you can do about it because you do have a lot of control, but you can't really go away out of their OTK range. Thaddeus Warlock is on the 50, and Curse Warlock is also not your friend it seems, but all around you should be fine. As for the Mulligan, going first, here's what the stats show, and your location is gonna be amazing in combination with the Anubisat. Tor Guide is great, Symphony as well. As the lore, I wouldn't really be keeping, but the Torn Veil Tentacle can make a lot of sense. Armor Render is also not bad on turn 1, and depending on the matchup, Defile can also make the cut. Jailer can be pretty good as well, and the rest you have to have a good reason to think about him. As for one on the coin, again location, and the Symphony is amazing. Akani apparently is not bad either here. Defile is still pretty good in some matchups. The 4-drop, Astlor again, not really that great. Tor Guide is fine. Tentacle as well, and Mortal, and even Reverberations depending on the matchup. For other good Warlock decks, we also have Thaddeus Warlock doing quite well, even though the sample size is nowhere near as big as the Control variant, and we have a better Control variant at the top as well, with again a small sample size, so I did go with this one, which has proven itself. We also have Imp Fatigue Warlock with quite the decent sample size and win rate, so this is a top tier 2 deck right now. And Curse Warlock is also somewhere out there, around mid tier 2. So definitely a lot of things to consider for Warlock right now. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Death Knight, we have Unholy Death Knight with quite the respectable stats and win rate, and I could have just as easily included this one in the top 5 as well. Plague Death Knight is also out there, even though it's nowhere near as good as Unholy, and Blood Decay is also out there, just barely above 50. Frost Death Knight is not amazing right now. With Demon Hunter, Outcast Demon Hunter is the best performer, but Relic Demon Hunter is also quite enjoyable to play, and it did get some cool new tools. For Druid right now, Drum Druid is the way to go, and it's quite a budget as well, so definitely go for it if you're on a budget. We also have the top tier variant doing quite fine, the more aggressive variant with Blood Trent as well as out there, and we also have Moonbeam Druid, which is really a meme deck, but people for some reason keep on spamming that shit. For Priest, Undead Shadow Priest is your best bet, but also Control Priest is still as annoying as ever, so if you feel like doing that, you can still go for it. With Rogues, Mech Rogue almost made it into this top 5, but we did include it in the last one, so let's give it a rest. It's still pretty decent, both with the big package and without it. Shaman right now, Totem Shaman is its best bet, and Nature Shaman is just a shell of its former glory. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the new Hearthstone season. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.